No, this is absurd. There's no reason for this. There's no reason for this shutdown. Pressure will build on both sides, even though this really is the Schumer shutdown. It's galling to listen to President Obama talk that way. Let me take a look at what Clinton, Biden, their merry band of radical leftists said.
Politics has never been more polarised on either side of the Atlantic. Left versus right, not over ideas, but out of pure tribal spite. And nowhere is that clearer than Washington's ongoing melodrama, the government shutdown. 15 days and counting, with the Democrats voting again today against reopening the government. It's a standoff. Congress bickers, agencies freeze, and ordinary Americans, from border agents to civil servants, get stuck in the crossfire. But my guest tonight says enough is enough. Senator Ron Johnson from the great state of Wisconsin wants to end government shutdowns forever. His plan would stop the chaos and force Washington to live within its means. Joining me from Wisconsin tonight, Senator Ron Johnson. Welcome to Harry Cole Saves the West. Senator, tell us the plan. It does strike me as slightly mad that you go through this cycle of shutdowns every couple of years. To the rest of the world, it looks kind of crazy. Why do you want to stop it, and how will you do it?
Well, it's way more than slightly mad, and we do this every year. No, it's a very simple solution. It's modeled on what we do in Wisconsin, passed this bill back in the 1950s. It's called the Eliminate Shutdowns Act, and if you haven't funded all of government or an individual department, you don't shut government down, you don't shut down that department, you just funded at last year's levels. You establish 2-week-long rolling continuing appropriations to fund that agency until an appropriation or continuing resolution is passed for that agency. It's just that simple. There's nothing else to it. There's no political advantage to it. Unfortunately, every Democrat voted against it, and unfortunately, many Republican appropriators voted against it. They said it would undercut the vaunted appropriation process. I've been here 15 years. We should have passed 180 appropriation bills prior to the end of fiscal year that was going to fund. You know how many of those 180 we passed on time? 6.
Wow.
So the vaunted appropriation process has a 96.7% failure rate, and that's the appropriation process they said my Eliminate Shutdown Act would undercut. No, this is absurd. There's no reason for this. There's no reason for this shutdown right now. I mean, this is, House has already passed a continuing resolution. It funds government at President Biden's levels. The funding levels the Democrats themselves voted for. They voted for continuing resolutions dozens and dozens of times. They just won't do it now. Their demand is, well, we'll give you a 4-week continuing resolution. All we ask is $1.5 trillion additional spending when we're already $37 trillion in debt. So again, this is beyond absurd. But that's Washington D.C., this alternate universe.
If you keep budget set at last year's budget, doesn't that remove some of the ability to try and tackle spending, to reduce spending? It's never really going to go backwards if you only ever reduce it to where it is now, right?
Well, currently, again, this looks dysfunctional, and it is, but this is actually a very well-honed process by the uniparty, the big spenders in both parties. They create these crises. They pass continuing resolutions right before a holiday break. A couple people produce a 2,000-page appropriation bill, drop it on our desk and say, well, if you want to go home for Christmas, we got to pass this thing. And unfortunately, enough people vote for it, it passes, and that's why we're $37 trillion in debt. So no, everything is in stacked right now for spending more money than we can afford. This would at least give us some measure of leverage to say, no, we'll just spend the last year's levels. We're not going to increase them, because every year we increase spending.
Exactly. You say some of your Republican colleagues voted against your bill. Why do they want to keep this, keep this sort of rolling chaos? Is it the fact that actually, they're not going to be, possibly will be in opposition one day, and it's quite a useful tool for oppositions, especially when they don't control the Senate, they don't control the House, to actually be able to do anything to put a spanner in the works, isn't it? They want to keep the political games, is what you're saying?
They view the appropriation process as sacred, sacrosanct. Right. You can't, we need to do everything we can to put pressure on us to make sure we pass appropriation bills, which I guess would be fine if you did them on time. But as I said, we've only passed 6 out of 180 since I've been here over the last 15 years. So it's a massive failure rate. And again, setting up an automatic continuing rolling appropriation doesn't hamper their ability to pass appropriation bills. Doesn't hamper that at all. Figure out the areas of agreement. I mean, right now the Senate passed a Veterans Affairs military construction bill, combined a couple other appropriation bills as a minibus. That passed the Senate. Looks like that's going to conference to the House. Again, that was an area of agreement. So you go do the easy stuff first. Focus on the areas of agreement and leave the other stuff till the end. But in the meantime, don't shut down government. Don't waste time with all this political wrangling. There's nothing, there's no purpose behind it at all, other than create deadlines to increase spending.
15 days in, it doesn't look like anyone's willing to back down now. It's payday tomorrow for tens of millions of workers across America who are going to be struggling with their bills and struggling with their mortgages and their rent. How long do you think this will last? And do you think the public pressure is starting to turn on both parties over the shutdown?
Yeah, my guess, pressure will build on both sides, even though this really is the Schumer shutdown. They could open the government today. Yeah. We just would have voted for the continuing resolution the House passed. But I've got a solution for the pay issue. It's called the Shutdown Fairness Act. If we force people to work, and we force people to work, we call them essential, so they got to work, this will just pay those people we force to work. I mean, what could be more common sense? The fact of the matter is, people that get furloughed, they generally get back pay, so we're going to pay them anyway, so might as well make them work. We might as well pay them while they work, while we figure out how to fund the rest of the agency.
If you were a betting man, sir, how long do you reckon this is going to last? Or are we still going to be in this situation next week? I've got a very young nephew who's very keen to visit the Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C., visiting the back end of next week. Is he going to be able to see the spaceships?
I wouldn't have him come next week. Yeah, this is kind of uncharted territory. Generally Republicans, kind of digging our heels in, saying, no, we got to spend less. Democrats just want to spend more. This is unusual, where the Democrats are causing a shutdown and demanding to spend a whole lot more. We're generally digging our heels and saying we have to spend less. This is a shutdown because the Democrats want to spend $1.5 trillion more.
Do you think the Republicans are doing a good enough job, though, in convincing the public that this is the Democrats' work? Because given what most people hear, certainly around the world as well, when they look at it, it's go, well, the Republicans control the House, they control the Senate. This has got to be on them, though. What more can you do to be making those points? Because you both seem to be getting the blame.
Well, again, we don't control the Senate because we need Democrats to join us to pass a bill with 60 votes. So we don't control it. We have majority, but we don't control it. Now, I think Republicans, by and large, have been pretty good, doing a good job messaging this. The problem is Democrats have the legacy media in their back pocket. And so they can always rely on the media to pretty well back up their position and put the blame on Republicans, which is why I think the American public is somewhat evenly split. They're not getting the straight scoop out of the legacy media.
Senator, moving to topic slightly, you were one of around half a dozen senators who had their phone records, the metadata of their calls accessed by the FBI during the investigation into Jan 6 and around that. What's the latest on that? How did that make you feel? And do you agree with your colleague, Senator Grassley, who says this is worse than Watergate?
It is worse than Watergate. Watergate was a third-rate burglary into the DNC headquarters. This is a egregious violation of separation of powers, really conducted against all Republicans, by and large. Not just 8 members, but or 9 members. I think 92 different Republican organizations, including the Republican Attorneys General's Association and Charlie Kirk's Turning Point. So again, this is they're casting a broad net. I don't know exactly what the purpose, what the predicate was. We just know it happened. What we need to do is we need Kash Patel and Pam Bondi to do a rigorous internal investigation and then turn over all those records, all the people who are involved, over to Congress so we can do our own investigation, hold hearings, hold deposed interviews. And if we see criminal activity, then we will refer that to the Justice Department for criminal prosecutions. But I don't want to start with criminal investigation because that just bottles up all the information. And the most important thing here is letting the American people know exactly what happened.
Given the accusations that are flying around Washington at the moment of lawfare and a judicial overreach, this strikes me as spectacular hypocrisy from the previous administration, yes?
Well, that is the definition of the Democrat Party. They are a bunch of hypocrites. So, yeah, no doubt about it.
Listen, Senator, I just want to play you a clip from President Obama, who was out and about yesterday. Let's have a listen to see what he had to say.
We don't want kangaroo courts and trumped up charges. That's what happens in other places that we used to scold for doing that. We want like our court system and our Justice Department and our prosecutors to be, and our FBI to be just playing things straight and looking at the facts and not meddling in politics the way we've seen lately.
He could be talking about his own side there. Does that strike you? It strikes me as a man that's starting to sound a little bit nervous about the possibility of indicted himself. Could you see that? Is that the way things are going? This lawfare genie doesn't look like it's going back in the bottle anytime soon, and sounds to me like the Democrats are starting to worry.
It's galling to listen to President Obama talk that way. I mean, he is the one who really began the weaponization of these federal agencies against his political opponents. When you take a look at, again, he knew what the Steele dossier was, Hillary Clinton dirty trick. He allowed his intelligence agencies to set up the Mueller investigation. He never said a word about it. So when you take a look at what Clinton, Biden, their merry band of radical leftists that's served and supported them, the damage they have done to our democracy. I mean, Russia and China could only dream of interfering in our elections to the extent that Obama and Biden and that cast of characters really interfered. I mean, the damage done to this democracy is incalculable. So no matter what kind of crimes they may have committed, what they could be convicted of, the punishment won't even come close to making up for the damage they did to America.
Is the answer, though, pursuing them? I mean, could you not step back slightly? Could the administration here not step back slightly and say, look, enough, we need to stop this on both sides. Everything's gone too far. A sort of clean slate. President Trump, has called for, in the past for unity and to come together and for the nation to heal. Is it going to be able to heal when, one party's voted out of power and spends the next 4 years trying to fight charges?
Well, again, prosecuting people for criminal interference in our election process is not the same as lawfare and weaponization of the agencies. I mean, when you have Letitia James running for office saying, I'm going to get Trump on something no matter what, that's not the way the Justice Department is supposed to work here. And of course, then they indict him and convict him of all kinds of trumped-up charges. So again, it's not equivalent. I don't want to see lawfare from a Republican standpoint, but I want to see these people held accountable, and if they committed crimes, they should be prosecuted and convicted.
Yes, perhaps Letitia James probably should have focused perhaps a little bit more on her own paperwork than other people's. Senator, I just want to draw your attention to an ongoing scandal in the United Kingdom at the moment concerning Chinese espionage. Now, look, we don't have to get into the nitty-gritty of the case, but essentially the accusation faced by the British government is they've allowed a spying trial to collapse in order to protect trade with China. Obviously, it's a hot topic in this country as well. Would you like to see America's allies taking a tougher stance on the East in the way that Donald Trump is?
We have to understand how China has just stolen all of our intellectual property, the way they are engaged in economic warfare against the West. And again, I would like to see China prosperous, but I want them playing by the rules. They're not playing by the rules, and they're doing a great deal of harm to all of our economies. We've got to stand together as allies and say, this has to stop. You got to start following the rules. And they're not doing that right now. They are committing crimes across the world.
Senator Johnson, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thank you again. Joining me in the studio throughout this evening's show is Adrian Gray, back, a friend of Harry Cole Saves the West, and a little birdie tells me about to launch her own new show. Fascinating stuff there from the Senator Johnson on the just the staggering hypocrisy of the Democrats. Obama does strike me as sounding a little bit nervous there that perhaps, Trump keeps mentioning him with the Russiagate stuff, the Steele dossier, bringing in the FBI, to politicising the FBI. Can you see a world, what are you hearing from Trump world, in which a former president is indicted?
I would love to see that. I know a lot of other people would love to see that. I don't know if we will see it, but we're in a position now that we're most likely to see it. We also see Hillary Clinton dotting her I's and crossing her T's. She came out kissing Trump's butt, to put it bluntly, as she should, and I think she should be just as nervous, if not more. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see what's shaking up now.
But doesn't Obama have a point, is that America is slightly above Banana Republic style locking up of political opponents once they've lost the office. Call me old-fashioned. I like to think this is a job for the voters rather than the prosecutors.
Absolutely. I mean, the corruption doesn't end, and we've seen it in the entire Biden administration as well with the auto pen. Will we get answers? Now that he has a health crisis, it's sort of this sympathizing role, right, surrounding him where, oh, maybe we might not see these people come to justice because he could be potentially dying of cancer. So there's a lot of interesting things that happen, I feel like, culturally that affect people's psychology, the psychology of it all, but I would like to see it all happen. I would like to see it all brought to justice.
But then, if the Republicans lose the House in the midterms next year, they're not. The Democrats are going to be back to hauling him into investigations, going for another impeachment, really going for it. I mean, when does this stop?
Well, you're exactly right. And hopefully we don't lose. I think that's important for everybody to have the foresight to keep fighting, to keep understanding that we need to show up, we need to win. But I don't see this ending. Again, they continue to do things. They shut down the government yet again. That is showing us that they are playing with people's lives and paychecks. They don't care. They've repeatedly voted no in the shutdown. So we see time and time again, they can't read the room. Right now, they're playing politics. They're playing to the far left, to AOC, to her base, and they're shooting themselves in the foot for the upcoming elections.